everyone, welcome back to my channel. Don't mind my appearance today. I'm about to start painting because today we are doing our master bedroom makeover. So here's a quick overview of what the room looked like before. The inspiration for this room definitely came from my Pinterest board. I knew that I wanted a dark accent wall as well as plug-in wall sconces for either side of our bed. I also knew that I needed to use all of our existing furniture. So for my first project, I knew that I wanted to refinish my old dressers. I have had these for a while now and they were just in need of a modern update, so I decided to paint them black and add gold handles. For this dresser, I did consider removing the old wooden handles, but I decided against it just because I didn't want to ruin the drawers themselves. I am, however, going to fill in the cracks on this top drawer and then replace these old handles. So I ended up moving the dressers into our empty spare room, and this is the mess that was left behind after removing the clothes and of course the dust that was underneath them. But I moved the dressers into the spare room because I really wanted to avoid moving these big dressers downstairs. We have a small stairwell, and when we moved in, we actually nicked up the walls, and I'll show you here in a second. There are still marks on our walls from when we moved in, so I really wanted to avoid nicking up the walls any more than they already were. So I moved these dressers into the spare room, and this is where I actually plan to sand and paint them. And of course, I do not recommend sanding indoors. If you're going to do a project like this, I would definitely try to sand outside if you are able to do so. So with both dressers in the spare room, I went ahead and removed the old handles and started sanding. And let me tell you, the sanding of these dressers took me an extremely long time. If you're going to do a project like this, I would actually recommend buying a paint stripper and then doing your sanding, as that will save you a ton of extra work. After sanding a couple of the drawers, I then went ahead and used the wood filler that I had to fill in the cracks of the top drawer, as well as the holes where the handles used to be. I then went back to sanding, and again, I would recommend using a paint stripper just so you can avoid hours and hours of endless work. Once that dresser was completely sanded, I then moved on to spray painting that little bit of metal that was on those 3 drawers. I went ahead and taped this all out, and that might have been a bit extra, but I definitely think the detailing in the end makes it well worth it. And once that was done, I could then move on to sanding this other dresser. These drawers actually had this old contact paper in them, and it had definitely seen better days, so I decided to remove that as well. I will probably replace this at some point, but that is just a project for another day. I then went ahead and removed the handles and then started sanding. Again, the sanding took me several days to do. I just did a little bit at a time. And with the sanding all done, I could finally move on to painting. So as these dressers dry, I'm just going to go ahead and spray paint the old handles. I'm first going to sand these down so that the paint better adheres, and then just give these a good coat of spray paint. And here's how they turned out. I am really in love with the way these gold handles look on these black dressers. And now I just need to attach the new handles to this top dresser drawer. I went ahead and used some tape to mark out where I wanted the handles to be and then drilled the holes. And don't worry, the line from the tape did go away by wiping this down with an EnviroCloth. And here's how they look completed. Again, I think they turned out so good, and now that they are done, I am able to clear out this room and get ready to paint. Doing the prep work for painting is definitely not the fun part, but it is for sure necessary. Taking down these curtains allowed me to patch all the old holes, and then I also, of course, sweeped up the floors and Swiffered the walls. And this is the paint color I am using for 3 of the walls. This is Celestial Glow by Behr, and I really think this is going to brighten up the room. I opted not to tape out the walls for this, as I was going to be doing the accent wall on the wall next to it. I also just prefer my freehand over when I do tape things out, but that is just my personal preference. I worked well into the night to get 2 coats of paint on these walls, and my body was definitely feeling it by the end, but I think it was all worth it because this color really brightens up the room. And here it was the next morning, all nice and dry and ready for my accent wall. This I did decide to tape out just because it's a darker color going against a lighter wall. And this was the color I chose. It is Graphic Charcoal, again by Behr, and I definitely think this will make for a great accent wall. The trim on this was just a bit trickier, and that's again just because it's a darker color, which is why I used the frog tape this time, but I was able to just really take my time and get some crisp lines. And then of course I did 2 coats of paint just like I did with the lighter color, and I just really love the way that this turned out. And here are just some of those crisp lines that I got from the tape. There was a few spots that I needed to touch up, but this accent wall turned out so good. So while the walls were drying, I went ahead and moved on to my next project, which was redoing our nightstands. My husband's was in really rough shape because he just doesn't always use a coaster. So I went ahead and sanded these down, and as I was sanding, I did notice that the wood on these is pretty rough. It's kind of discolored in certain spots, but I went ahead and tried to stain it, and I used this early American stain, and it didn't turn out perfect, but I actually kind of like how it turned out, and I think it's going to look really good in our room. So with the stain already out, I then moved on to refinishing these $5 shelves from Five Below. I just simply unscrewed the metal brackets, that way I could sand and stain the piece of wood, and then I used this black spray paint. I did this just because these shelves are going to go against a white wall, and I really wanted them to stand out. And here's all the pieces complete. I just had to reassemble these shelves. I also went ahead and stained this $5 tray from Target that I wanted to put on top of my dresser. So I went ahead and sanded that down, and then again stained it with the early American stain. I also wanted to line the bottom of the tray with fabric, so I just hot glued down the sides of the fabric, and then I also cut the corners so that this would lay flat in the bottom of the tray. And for now, I think this looks pretty good. And lastly, I'm just going to paint these curtain ends. I'm painting these black so that they better match our bed frame, but I actually just got these out of another bedroom in our home, so this just shows that sometimes all you have to do is swap things around your house to really make the items that you already have work for you. And now that those curtains are up, I can make our bed and really get to decorating. So I'm going to go ahead and use command strips to hang these signs that I made, the ones that say love you more and love you most on either side of our bed. I'm actually hanging these pretty high because I wanted to leave room for the plug-in wall sconces that I bought from Amazon. I was super excited to hang these up, and I really think they're going to add tons of dimension to this room. I also went ahead and hung this large round gold mirror above my dresser. I've been wanting a mirror like this for a while now and was super excited to hang this up. You may also recognize the macrame I'm hanging up. I did make a tutorial on these wall hangings and will link that in the description below for you to check out. And on the opposite wall I am hanging these shelves. You might notice that I am also hanging these diagonally, and that is because our ceiling coves down, and I wanted to make sure that these flowed with the direction of the wall. Another macrame project you might recognize is this plant hanger, and again I will link the tutorial in the description below. And now it's time for all of those finishing touches. And here's a reminder of how the room looked before and after. You guys, I am in love with the way our bedroom turned out. This is definitely the first of many room makeovers in our home. If you guys liked this video, don't forget to click the like button below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single room makeover, DIY, or household project. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye!